Hello friends, welcome to IS Point. Today is July 25th and we are going to analyze the articles of the Hindu. So please do hit the like button, subscribe my channel and also give your opinion about the video. And you can watch similar sort of videos in Tamil at UPSC Tamil. The link is given in the description box. Coming to the first article, taxing time for the states. See, this article is all about GST with respect to the federalism. So this article tries to compass both and tries to bring in the real scenario comparing the past. Fine. So coming to the article now, this article first talks about the basic features of GST. It says that GST was introduced by 101st Constitutional Amendment Act. It will bring in uniformity in tax administration across the country, and it happens to be an idea worth cherishing. Plus, it describes GST as good and simple tax, and it has many consequences to integrate India into a single market. So these are the characteristics which the article tries to bring in. And the important point which to be noted here with respect to this article is that this article says that this GST will bring in cooperative federalism. See, before explaining the cooperative federalism, I would like to make a point that federalism means dual form of government. So this federalism varies from nations to nations. See, the federalism of USA is different from the federalism of India, right? So federalism varies from nations to nations as it does not have fixed principles. So coming to the federalism point of India, after independence, the federalism which India followed was competitive federalism. See, competitive federalism is a sort of federalism where the center and the states competed for the growth. It is not only the center and the states, even also states competed between themselves. So this happens to be the competitive federalism. I could also give you an example. For instance, sales tax. The sole authority on taxation with respect to the sales tax is state government. So it is the state government which will determine the sales tax. So during the competitive federalism, in order to attract investment, states decreased the sales tax so that many industries would come in and their sales would enhance. So this could be seen as an example of an competitive federalism. So what this article tries to say is, while implementing GST, it could bring in cooperative federalism. See, cooperative federalism is where the center and the union all together will contribute for the growth of the nation. So this is called as cooperative federalism. And this article says that this cooperative federalism comes at the cost of the state government waiving of its critical fiscal powers. See, obviously with the implementation of GST, it is the GST Council which will decide the tax structures and it is not the state government which will decide. So there is some sort of encroachment on the state powers with respect to this GST. So that's what this article tries to say. Fine. And this article tries to say that the GST is a product of pooled sovereignty. Yes, all states have came together and where the states have voluntarily waived off their fiscal powers. See, I have explained you this article. Fine. So while saying this article tries to put in few questions. It says that whether this is the right time to implement GST, whether GST is a good thing in the nation, whether it will bring in liberty or equality, that is the basis of the constitution which has built, whether the fiscal independence which is given to the state as a basic form of constitution, and even the Supreme Court advocated it, whether this GST is going to affect it, and even if it affected, whether it is for the welfare of the nation. So these sort of unpredictable questions the article tries to place in. While placing in all the questions, this article tries to go to the past and says that the constitution has originally adopted federal agreement between the unions and the state. So the constitution prescribed two level of government, that is center and the states, and states that foreign affairs, defense were assigned to the central list, while public order, public health, sanitation, agriculture, water were given to the state government. So it is not only in this dimension, it is also talking with respect to the dimension of financial powers. So it also tries to say that the income tax was used to be placed by the center and the state government had equal power where they were given financial powers with respect to sales tax. So it was the sole authority. So state was the sole authority for implementing sales tax. So it says that this brought in mutual existence between the both, and it also given a sense of relief for the state and they could act according to their situations. So this article tries to say that whether implementation of GST could mitigate this, and this article also tries to bring in that it was the division of this fiscal responsibility made the states self-sufficient, and it also made them to govern according to the respective needs of the people. So whether this GST has few effects on it, and it tries to bring in a famous quote of Ambedkar and says that encroaching on the sales tax of the state is similar to making the states handicapped, that is dividing them of their financial powers. And this article also tries to say that because of the introduction of GST, it is going against the objective, that is the constitutional objective of Article 1 of the Constitution. The Article 1 of the Constitution is the Union of States. Fine. So it mentions Union of States, which gives every state their hold. But this article says that this GST is against the aspirations of the Article 1 of the Constitution. See, in the crux format, what the article tries to say is this GST Council is against the federalism. Fine. So what it tries to say is, because of the implementation of GST, the states are devoid of their financial powers. So the state government cannot implement their taxes anymore, and this leaves no room to showcase their aspiration with respect to the financial matters. So this GST is curbing the federalism, which is one point of argument according to the author. And we can counter argument in such a way. See, we can even say that Indian federalism is a quasi form of federalism, where the objective is indestructible union with destructible states. So this GST Council is a welcome move which brings in cooperative federalism. So even we can counter argue this point in an effective manner. Fine. And even this article tries to brings in the GST Council and the functions of the GST Council. It says that the member of GST Council are Union Finance Minister, Union Minister of State in charge of Revenue or Finance, or the Minister in charge of Finance from the state governments. So it tries to brings in the members of the GST Council. See guys, have a note on the members of GST Council. Fine. And this article also tries to say that the functions of the GST Council is they will bring in the taxes, that is they will recommend a number of things, that is taxes, and what things should be subsumed under GST, that is what are goods and services should be subsumed under GST, and the tax which will be levied and who will collect, and henceforth will be decided by the GST Council. Fine. But this article tries to brings in an interesting question. See, it says that any decision which has to be passed in a GST Council, then it requires 3/4 of the majority. 3/4 of the majority means 75% of the vote. It requires 75% of the vote to pass a decision in the GST Council. But the interesting factor which the article tries to place is the central government has 1/3 of the votes for themselves. So 1/3 of the vote means 33% with themselves. One could imagine that the center has 33% with themselves. But to pass a decision in the GST Council, it requires 75% of the majority. Fine. But the 33% is with the center. Then without the consensus of the center, no decision can be made. So it gives an virtual veto to the center. So this is what this article tries to play in a very good manner. And even this article also tries to say that there is a little bit of confusion with respect to the GST Council decisions. So it tries to brings in Article 279A of the Constitution. It says that according to this, the decision which is made by the GST Councils are recommendatory in the nature. Fine. It is recommendation which the GST Council will give. But there is also a mechanism with the GST Council to adjudicate the dispute that may arise within their members. That's it. If any case or conflict which is going with respect to the tax matters, then the GST Council will adjudicate the matter. That is, they will bring in a conclusion. So it gives the GST Council a power to adjudicate the issues. So this article tries to put a question that if the GST Council, they are recommending in nature, right, then why there is a need for a dispute resolution mechanism? So even this is an efficient criticism which the author tries to brings in. So this article tries to say that if the decisions which is made by the GST Council is recommendatory in nature, then there will be many conflict which will be arise out. There would be many differences of opinion with respect to the states. Fine. And because one state may choose to ignore the decision and one may implement their own decision. Fine. So this is one point. If the decisions or the recommendation which is made by the GST Council is obligatory, then the states are left with no situation. Fine. So this is what the article tries to say. See guys, this is a criticism. So I'll just list it down. First, it tries to say that it curbs fiscal autonomy of the states. That is, it does not give states to make decision with respect to the taxation. And this article tries to say that it is an act which goes against the constitution. It is against the federalism. And it also tries to brings in the GST Council and the problem within the GST Council. It says that the GST Council has veto with themselves and tries to place a question mark with respect to the GST Council decisions. So these are the criticism which the article tries to place in. Fine. With these criticism, as a conclusion, the article says that it is against the constitution basic structure. Fine. So this is the article tries to mention. See guys, this article can be used as a criticism for GST with respect to the federalism. But if you want to bring in advantages of GST with respect to the federalism, then you can write that it will bring in cooperative federalism, it brings in state together on a single bench, and it considers each and every state irrespective of their population and territorial area. So every states are given an equal land, then it will bring in a good market. So even you can write few advantages with respect to the federalism. See guys, I have given few, and I also like you to write down few advantages of GST with respect to the federalism in the comment box. We'll move on to the next article now. So coming to the next article is all about the Gorkhaland issue. So before going into this article, we'll just look at the background first. Fine. So because see, this Gorkhaland issue is not something which is came out of a sudden. This demand for the Gorkhaland state has been throughout the years. So we have to look at the background first and the history first. So see, Gorkhaland happens to be a proposed state in the Darjeeling, West Bengal. See, I have given you the map here. You could see here the proposed demanded state, which is demanded by the Gorkha Jan Mukti Morcha. So they are demanding for the separate state out of West Bengal. Fine. And one has to date back to the history. It is because they have been demanding for a separate state throughout the years, so there is a need for us to go into the history. So the Gorkha people invaded Nepal in the year 1780s and they annexed Darjeeling and Sikkim, and in the year 1814 Anglo-Gorkha war happened and a Saugawli treaty was signed between the Gorkha people and the British. According to this, the Gorkha people gave the annexed territories to the British, that is, they gave the part of the Sikkim to the British, and even the British prevented Gorkha people to expand their territories, and from that time they have been demanding for their identity and a separate state. Fine. So the demand was also be made to the Morley Minto Reforms Panel Commission in 1907, and even they made the demand after independence to our Jawaharlal Nehru, to our Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, and even demand was made to the State Reorganization Committee which was appointed at that time. So they have been demanding for the separate state throughout the years, but one needs to understand why there has been a demand for a separate state for the Gorkha people. It is because they have separate language. These people are Nepali speaking first thing, and they do not have any identity with the Bengali people, and they have different culture, they have different flag, they have different customs, they have different food habit. Everything is different with respect to the Bengali people. So what they need is, they need a sense of identity. Fine. So this is the key word. They need a sense of identity for themselves in the Indian state. See, they are not demanding for a separate nation. Fine. They are not demanding for a separate state where they would have their own rule. It is not that. They are demanding for an separate identity like the states which demanded before. For instance, we could see an example of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. So these were the states which were demanding for their identity based on the linguistic lines. Fine. So that's why there was a demarcation, right? And even yesterday we saw an article on Kannada flag. See, people are demanding for an Kannada flag. It is because they feel that this Kannada flag could bring them a sense of identity. So this is the issue respect to that. Fine. So a demand has been made throughout the years, and it got violence, it got intensified in the year 1980s, where the Gorkha National Liberation Front played a major role, and in the year 2007 the Gorkha Jan Mukti Morcha took the lead and they made a semi-autonomous body for the Darjeeling Hills. Fine. So as a solution to this, what the government say is, they would be given a provision under the 6th schedule where they would be made a semi-autonomous state with more powers, but the Gorkha people want a separate state. So this is the case of conflict which is going on. Fine. And why the government is not giving a separate status? It is because they are very few in population. Fine. So their demand for the separate state is under consideration, and now the people are protesting. And the reason for the sudden protest, that is the triggering factor for the protest now, is because of the West Bengal decision. Recently, West Bengal government made a decision that Bengali as a compulsory languages in school across the state. So this gave a triggering factor for them to showcase their agitations, and Jan Mukti Morcha is leading their aspirations, who are demanding for their identities in the form of separate state. So that's it with respect to the background. We'll move on to the article now. So coming to the article now, what's brewing in Darjeeling? So this article tries to say that the Darjeeling Hills are in crisis. So it tries to bring in the reality with respect to the Darjeeling and says that the protest in West Bengal has been going on many a days, and it also tries to bring in the sense of violence which is present in the movement, and the vigorous of the movement is presented in the first para of the article. And then this article tries to say that the current crisis is like a storm. It is because of an Bengali government decision for the compulsory language in school across the state, that is Bengali should be a compulsory compulsory language in schools across the state. So the article claims this as an linguistic imperialism, that is enforcing the language on the people of Gorkha. So this article tries to brings in the crux of the movement. It says that this is not something which is evolved now, and it is a long-standing quest for the Nepal-speaking Indian citizens. So this article claims that they are Indian citizens, and there has been a sense of a misunderstanding with respect to their movement, and it says that they are neither separatist and nor anti-nationalist. So one has to look their aspiration. So the article tries to say that what the Gorkhaland people desire is the separate state for the recognition, respect and integration of Gorkha peoples in the Indian nation state. So this is the key word which can be used in your answer writing. Fine. So this article is again talking many things which is not important from the examination point of view. It tries to brings in that many violences, protesting and roads have been blocked. So these and all are not important. But this article tries to say that the Gorkha people of Darjeeling have not yet tested their independence yet. And see why the article says is it's because of before 97 it was because of colonial government, and after 97 it is because of Bengal government. So here the author tries to be outrageous to an extent, and this article also tries to say that there are many problems which is present in Gorkhaland, and the problem which the people face is linguistic chauvinism, ethnic and racial discrimination, resource extraction, unilateral territorial claims, the denial of self-governance, political suppression, fine, and unwillingness to respect their native point of view. So these are all the problems which the Gorkhaland people have. So see guys, these points are self-explanatory in nature, and I have also explained you this in the background. So coming to the article, this article says that one needs to look into their consideration, and one needs to look into their pain, and a solution should be met at early as possible, as soon as possible. So that's it with respect to this article guys. Thank you for watching.